Week 8 is behind us. We are officially over halfway through the NFL season for teams without a bye, I guess. And Rashee Rice is leading the wide receiver position in points per game. This is Stat Chasing.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your sight.
Jamar Alpha Play Chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally piss boys. You're right.
Okay, we're not actually halfway through. I just kind of Davis Maddox that one. That was just a lie, but we're through week 8.
We're through week 8, which is that's almost halfway.
Yeah, almost halfway. Definitely not
halfway
by any definition.
2:30 on this Sunday will be halfway.
There you go. Thank you for having my back there.
So I I screwed up in a very bad way. I had the wrong background for your cold open. I don't know how you're ever going to forgive me.
To be honest, I did not even notice. The background did not register for me.
No, I don't think I might be the only person on the planet who cares that the background is correct.
Yeah, if you notice that the background was not correct, let us hear about it in the comments. We take that kind of feedback very seriously.
We're a professional show. We make the big bucks. We should get that sort of thing right.
Well, I think we've got a lot to go through in the charts today, so let's go ahead and dive into them. See if we can keep this show under 2 hours. We've been doing pretty good recently. I feel like we've been
on a good run,
delivering all the information that we think is actionable, and we've been doing it concisely.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first year we've done show notes, and what do you know? We're efficient. We're more efficient with the show. Like, who would have thunk it? I
mean, in past years we had notes, but they were a lot looser than the structure that we've been going with.
Yeah, true. These are a lot more focused. So again, you've got the notes this week. You want to dance on Caleb Williams. He's not dead yet, but his
prior to me dancing on Caleb Williams' grave, let's pull the charts up so the good people can see.
I've shared screen, but I haven't added to the stage. There we go.
Okay, so the point I wanted to make on Caleb Williams, I have a couple things to share here. So first, I was pulling up how he's been trending on this chart over the past weeks. In week 6, he was at an adjusted yards per attempt of right about 8. Then in week 7, he's down to 7.5. Now here in week 8, he's almost down to 7 adjusted yards per attempt. So it's been a steady and precipitous fall off. That's kind of a lot of ground to cover when you consider that this is an average of the season. So he's been very bad and very bad lately. He was running really, really hot on deep touchdowns earlier in the season. So that was really doing a lot of work for adjusted yards per attempt. But it turns out when you stop sun running deep touchdowns to Rome Odunze, your whole numbers start to look a lot worse. And I did some digging into this because watching the Bears, it really seems like the success that he does have is within those first 15 or so scripted plays, right? Like you get the scripted plays and he looks fine, more or less. And then after that, where it's like, all right, this isn't something that we've drilled at practice all week. Like I don't have reps going through, okay, I start here in my progression, then I get to here. And then if there's nothing here, then I throw it away. Or if there's nothing here, I take this check down or what have you. But when you get out of those first 15 scripted plays, I managed to pull up this stat. So for quarterbacks, excluding their first 15 plays of each half, all the way back through 2011, there is no quarterback with a lower EPA than Caleb Williams. That's lower than Zach Wilson. That's lower than, you take your pick of your least favorite quarterback, but there is no quarterback lower in EPA than Caleb Williams outside of the first 15 plays of each half. What do you think about that?
That sounds pretty bad.
Well,
you
it
pulled
sounds
that up
that
on
bad
NFL.
because I totally made it up. No, I just Davis Maddox that one. It just sounded
Okay,
fun.
you had me. I was like, oh shit. I ended this guy last week. It's like, so I'm looking at his adjusted yards per attempt by the games. And so he obviously played lights out against the Cowboys. Who did they play in week 6?
Let me see here. Was it the Saints?
Week 6. Cause it was the Commanders.
Or yeah, Saints was 7, Commanders was 6.
Yeah, the 7 was his worst game. So far this year.
Week 4 was actually pretty bad as well, but yeah, 7 was a little worse
in terms of adjusted yards per attempt.
Yeah.
That was and I had the excuse of like, oh, it was the worst weather game of the week. It was even worse than the Browns one, or it was expected to be worse than the Browns Dolphins one. And then he had the pretty piss poor game against the Ravens as well. Like what's kind of interesting is even in these bad games, he's putting up like decent amount of passing yardage, and on like a lot of it's kind of like decent drop back numbers. So it's kind of like what you said last week, where he's not a catastrophic quarterback to have for your pass catchers. And then how many fantasy points did he score?
In this last week, looks like a little under. How many rushing yards did he have? Looks like 12, 13. Let me pull up his rushing numbers though. Looks like 14-ish, like between 13 and 14. Just quick mental math.
I'm just going to I'm just going to pull it up. So I'm right now. This is on all week, so I need to change it to just week 8. So he had 12.8. So you were correct. I mean, on like a terrible week, 12.8 is like you're certainly not dead on 12.8.
Yeah, he's not someone that
I feel like he's worse for real football than he is for fantasy. Like he Justin Fields is a better fantasy quarterback, and probably marginally worse reality quarterback. But he's probably in that kind of archetype where he's pretty bad for reality, but like he's okay for fantasy, because even in the doo-doo weeks, like it's like an okay floor.
Yeah, I think I mean, the whole point of this chart is that it does kind of help cluster guys around. I mean, obviously you have to do some kind of like adjusting for the rushing yards. Maybe we can figure out a way to like vectorize that next season and get that in the chart so we can place them somewhere where it's like they're all closer for their actual fantasy performance. But I mean, where he sits on the chart is like kind of where I think his neighbors are pretty appropriate comparisons for fantasy.
Yeah,
like,
no, that's fair.
He's about fair. A Michael Penix or a CJ Stroud or like a like a worse Bo Nix, which like that doesn't get me excited, like way significantly worse than Mac Jones. I guess significantly worse is unfair. Worse,
right. Well, I mean, he's not like, he's similar efficiency to Dak Prescott, similar efficiency on the season to Baker Mayfield, and like he's right next to Penix on the chart. But then his rushing bubble, and I know we talked about this last week, that his a lot of his rushing came early in the season.
Yeah, he did.
Like,
he did have.
I agree with you that he's like probably he's probably one of the worst actual locked in starter reality quarterbacks. But he's still a solid fantasy. I don't think you're not thrilled if you have him. We have Caleb Williams on our main event. That's kind of sliding. I certainly wouldn't fight tooth and nail to keep Caleb Williams when we have Drake May. That might be one where we cut Caleb Williams because we need help elsewhere. But in terms of best ball, I think he's okay. In the right matchup, we were still happy to play Caleb Williams against the Cowboys because the Cowboys are doo-doo. So in those matchups,
in the literal best matchup in the league, yes, I will play him.
Well, I guess even the top 5, even the top 10 best matchups, he's good enough in terms of fantasy football that he puts up points.
Yeah,
that's a mathematical thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna be hard pressed to find times where I want to start Caleb Williams over a good quarterback. If I'm just totally dead, I drafted a guy who's injured now. If I took Brock Purdy or something, then yeah, I would stream Caleb Williams in a pinch. But he wasn't really going in a place where you were picking him up to use as a streamer. You're drafting him as your starting quarterback. And in best ball, the price for him in best ball just looks really, really bad because the opportunity cost was pretty significant. That's where all of the good quarterbacks went, and also a lot of the skill position players that went around there were some of the stronger picks in the draft. So I don't know. You're gonna have a hard time selling me on anything that's putting him in a positive light. He's a replacement level.
That is clear to me.
He's a replacement level player.
In reality, but I still think that his style of play means that even at replacement level, you get some pretty good fantasy weeks.
I mean, he's basically at replacement level in fantasy too. If we look at where he is on this chart, which is measuring how good a player is for fantasy, he's bang on the median, bang on median dropbacks, bang on median efficiency, trending downward. He's not a major outlier in the way of rushing production either. So for me, it's just Caleb Williams is to the quarterback position. What
fantasy points? He's quarterback 13.
Yeah. In actual fantasy points where you get the one huge game that's buoying him, where he had, significant fantasy production all come from one game. Yes, he's quarterback 13.
Yeah, but a lot that's kind of how fantasy works as well, where a significant unless you're literally Jonathan Taylor, a lot of the production comes from single weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in points per game, I'll be pretty surprised to see him be much higher than QB 16 through the end of the season.
Okay.
I think it's heading in the opposite direction of where you'd want it to go if you were hoping for.
Right. No, I get what I have a hard time with kind of trend line stuff when it comes to fantasy football because oftentimes there's not trends, but with 2 or 3 data points, the appearance of one can emerge. I think what you're saying is, hey, he's had the best game he's ever had. He'll have this year against the Cowboys, which there's not going to be many quarterbacks who have a game as good. So that seems fair. But where I disagree is that he won't have any more good games this year. I think his style of play means that he is likely to have games where he's in the 8, 9, 10 adjusted yards per attempt, and the dropbacks are good enough, and you do get some rushing there. I guess I think he probably does settle around quarterback 15 to 13. But maybe we should move on.
Okay, the next, I didn't have a ton of quarterback notes. I felt like it was mostly a status quo week, but we do have to kind of give this one.
Right, we had some change-ups.
Justin Fields, not actually benched, only benched in theory before the game actually happened. Then,
right.
Then he gets to start. So the chat was right all along. There's zero chance Justin Fields gets benched. Rumors of him being benched and then being unceremoniously unbenched do not matter because Justin Fields never was benched. In all seriousness, though, do you think that his performance in the Jets' first win of the season is enough to save his job?
For next week, who did the Jets play this week?
They're on bye.
Okay, Jets week 10 schedule.
They get the Browns next.
They get the Browns. So, do I think that Justin Fields' performance against the Bengals, which he had an adjusted yards per attempt of 8.3, will be enough to save his job when Myles Garrett wears him around his neck like a necklace? And then after that, he gets the Patriots. Then he gets the Ravens. He's on thin ice, right?
Yeah, it's a rough stretch for him after the bye.
I definitely, on a human level, not that anybody cares, I definitely felt for him when he's like, oh yeah, I was crying in my cupboard, nobody believed in me, and I was like, oh, that's rough. That is rough, especially he seems like a really good person, and so that part makes me feel like crap for the kind of gloating that he's bad, but I think what it's like the chat was right in one thing, in that when the Jets were faced with the reality of actually having to start Tyrod Taylor, they blinked. When that ugly face was looking at them back in the mirror, they blinked. And that's probably the best thing helping Fields right now. But he's on thin ice. The team is poorly managed. His weaknesses are very pronounced. They seem to be emphasizing the weaknesses. Even though he's a great fantasy quarterback, it's you still feel nervousness for Fields every week. When you have him and you know he's starting, you play him, but it's like a 1 week at a time type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't have the Tyrod injury, he probably ends up playing this last week. But I do think that it's really easy from where the Jets are sitting to be prisoners of the moment when you're 0-7, right? Where it's like, God, we just need anything that we can do, anything that's different than what we were doing is probably better. Like, just change for change's sake, And so I agree with you. He's going to get the chance coming out of the bye. The Browns matchup should be rough. I mean, we just saw Myles Garrett sack Drake May 5 times in a game. I don't know if you saw that, but
I did see that. It was literally all over TV. Yeah, and it was 5 sacks, and they still lose.
Well, after
they asked, how does it feel to sack him 5 times? And he was like, I just want to win, please. I don't care about the sacks. I want to win.
Well, they took him out in the fourth quarter. They weren't letting Garrett play, and he was throwing a hissy fit on the sideline. He was pissed. I don't want to say, oh, I don't believe him that he wants to win. He wants to win. He definitely was just wanting to set a sack record in that game. The way that he was throwing a fit on the sideline was like, what the fuck, guys? This is in my career, I might get one more chance to set the single game sack record, and this is probably my best chance. You know, I'm already at 5. Drake May loves to take him. Like Drake May will just stand back there and get sacked. And you're just saying, I think the single game sack record is 8. Is that right? I can't remember.
I'll look it up real quick. Single game sack record.
It's 7. So yeah, he would have needed 8 to pass it. But yeah, man, like he wasn't wrong to be upset. Like with the contract that he signed with the Browns and where the Browns are at from a roster construction standpoint, like winning, quote unquote, caring about winning, that's just not going to be a thing for Myles Garrett for his career unless he gets traded, right? And so
I still think you want to win the game.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Somebody of Myles Garrett's talent, mental makeup, being a competitor, you want to win.
For sure. I probably phrased it wrong. But he also knows he is not winning his career will end without him winning a Super Bowl unless he gets traded. That's like the cold hard truth. And that's why he, held out for so much money. He was like, I think I'd kind of like, to have some accolades for my career. And so he's a smart enough guy to know, like, this is how he gets his accolade. Like when he is retired and looking back on his career, like, sure would be nice to be staring at the single game sack record. That's all I'm
that makes sense. That makes sense.
It was funny to me to see him be so upset, and the Browns coach. I mean, I get why the coaches held him out too, because it's like, this does nothing for you. Could go get 20 sacks, buddy. We're not. It's not going to help us win this game. But okay, I think that's enough. That Justin Fields talk turned into a Myles Garrett tangent. The other quarterback notes I had, really, I think a lot of it was status quo. You don't need to hear us talk about how good Justin Herbert or Patrick Mahomes or Drake May are. But again, for the millionth time. But the quick touches I had, I'll just shout them out, and if you have anything to add to them, please do. But Tua had a decent bounce back game against a really good Falcons defense. I'll come back to that one. I just want to rapid fire through these. Kirk Cousins looked terrible in that same game. Carrying some water for Michael Penix, maybe, actually being better than he seems, or at least better than Kirk Cousins. And then Spencer Rattler finally benched. This will be his last week on the chart before we have Tyler Shuck in there. But I want to go back to the Tua thing. So many of the Falcons stats, defensive stats that, they were in the top, couple places in the league, were really predicated on things like pressure, like time to pressure and pressure win rate and things like that. And I was looking back at who they played, and they played a lot of the culprits for the longest time to throw in the league, like Josh Allen and Jayden Daniels, and I'm trying to remember who else they played.
So who are you talking about?
The Falcons defense. Falcons defense looked like a juggernaut coming into this game, right? One of the best in the league.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that stuck out to me was how good their pressure stats were, specifically their time to pressure. And then when you look back at who they have played and how they won those games, they beat the Bills because they got to Josh Allen so fast and they shut Josh Allen down. And Josh Allen, like many of these mobile, elite quarterbacks like Drake May, Lamar Jackson, Jayden Daniels, these guys that extend the play and can either do something with their legs or, burn you deep. Those guys, the Falcons had played a lot of them and seemed like they at the very least had, if not, the recipe for how to beat those guys, at least an inkling of how to give them trouble. And I think that is kind of what was showing up in the Falcons stats. And the Dolphins were the perfect storm for the Falcons. I mean, other than the fact that they were missing a bunch of their most important players on offense. So, that certainly doesn't do any favors to the defense when the offense can't sustain drives and you're just having to be out there all the time.
So what I'm seeing here actually lines up a lot with what you're saying, where the Commanders, their pass rush is actually not that good. It's the 15th in the league, and per PFF, both PFF and the ESPN pass rush.
The Commanders or the Falcons?
the Falcons. Sorry, I did say the Falcons. Why did I have the Falcons in my head? Sorry, I interrupted to make a point, and then my point is like, so they're 14th in the league, in their pass rush.
Yeah, the time to pressure is really the thing for the Falcons that I think kind of made the perfect storm here for Tua being so quick to throw, just basically unaffected. The thing that the Falcons did the best on defense all of a sudden is nullified by the fact that Tua is like, oh yeah, no, I'm not interested at all in being tackled. So the ball is just going to be out, and best of luck, gentlemen. And I do think that really was a big reason why the Dolphins were able to have so much success against a Falcons defense that has otherwise been really, really strong. Just a really bad matchup thing for them, along with the injuries.
Right. His time to throw in this game was 2.2, ADOT of 4.4, and so yeah, they and then, like I said, the Falcons, they had the 14th best pass rush, which, like you're saying, they faced a lot of quarterbacks to hold the ball, and their coverage grade is like 18th, so like not as terrible as I kind of would have thought, but like you said, Tua, not a good matchup for a defense that's predicated on the pass rush, getting pressure against like a 3-second like time to throw guy.
Did you have anything else to add on the Cousins and the Falcons or Rattler benching, or should we just move on to running backs now?
No, probably not. No, I did see there was kind of notes that some of the film watchers were saying that the Falcons just have this like very predictable offense that like you kind of like you know what they're going to do, and there's no mystery about it. And the Dolphins are just able to key on that. Like I'm not a film grinder, so I don't know the truth in that. But it does make me wonder if the coaching staff is a big part of the problem for the Falcons offense.
A thing that I noticed watching the game, because I was watching this game because I had a bunch of Bijan in DFS and it was not going well, and I was wanting to see if there was anything I could do from my couch to help that turn around. And spoiler alert, I couldn't. But a thing that I noticed was it really looked like Kirk Cousins was not on the same page with some of his receivers, where he's expecting the route to be run to a different spot on the field. And so he's throwing at a ball with timing, and the receivers are ending up in a totally different spot. And they actually like highlighted one of those plays, and then they cut to him on the sideline. He's like talking with a coach and just like looks pretty frustrated about it, where I don't know if it's that, he and Penix want the receivers to do, different things on the same routes or what have you, but it just looked like a guy who didn't have the chemistry with the pass catchers from playing all season. So I think there was a lot wrong there, but I think the Falcons will definitely be hoping for Penix to be back soon.
Makes sense. Let's move on to running back. By the way, shout out to Chris G in the chat, giving us good information here. Where the Dolphins stacked the box, and then Kirk Cousins, they dared Kirk Cousins to beat them, and it sounds like he didn't have the chemistry with his receivers to get that done.
So for running backs here, there wasn't, as far as like big usage changes or things like that. I guess there was one small usage related thing that I'll get to in a little bit, but I think we'll just start from the top as far as guys who currently have the best roles and work our way down from there. CMC had like a really disappointing game. If you just looked at the box score, it's probably pretty confusing. You're like, why is he not involved? He only had like 8 carries. What's going on? The 49ers didn't have the ball in this game. I had the misfortune of watching this entire game from start to finish. And let me tell you how the first half went for the 49ers. Believe the first drive was a 3 and out. Then the next drive was 4 plays, then a punt. Next drive, 3 and out. Then their final drive of the half, final possession they get the ball deep in Texans territory, and it's a 35-yard drive for a touchdown. That's it. That's the half. They ran 14 plays in the first half, and 3 of them ended in punts, like basically immediately. So CMC just never had a chance to get going. This is like a zero panic kind of situation for me. I mean, if anything, it's more signal to me that Christian McCaffrey is just like, as Christian McCaffrey goes, the 49ers go, at least in this current iteration where they don't really have any pass catchers. I mean, George Kittle's starting to be back, but until they get back, either Ayuk or Juwan Jennings gets more healthy, or they get Pearsall back, like they just go as Christian McCaffrey goes. So not really a spot for concern for me. It was just the Texans totally dominated them on, really, it was more the offensive side of the ball. Texans just held the ball for the entire game. Basically, the 49ers barely had any time of possession. And so, again, kind of like what we said with the Falcons, like if your offense or if your defense can't help out your offense, like what are you going to do? Bijan had the major bust week, I think, kind of in the same vein as McCaffrey. No real concern for me here. It was just a product of the game environment and his team not being able to move the ball or stop the Dolphins on defense. This one I think is actually pretty important. We get the Saquon Barkley hamstring injury to the third quarter. He comes up, he grimaces pretty bad. Looked like he definitely knew that he, hurt something. Doesn't come back in the game after that. Tank Bigsby gets in the game and then looks pretty good. Ends up going over 100 yards. He had a carry earlier in the game too, where he looked pretty good. So Drico, I think I regret to inform myself, Tank Bigsby might find a way to get there, man.
Right. And the Eagles, they have the great offensive line. I guess they haven't had the best year, but it's
improved lately though. They had some health issues to start the season, and their line is definitely getting healthier and has improved the last couple of weeks. I think it was a major factor in Saquon having that, the big game this week before leaving due to the injury.
I guess I do want to. Sorry to go back on McCaffrey. I am a little bit surprised that on 33 routes he only had 5 targets. That does seem very surprising. But maybe that's a big case of them just chasing the game, not being able to use a check down. But then it's like, well, shouldn't you be using McCaffrey down the field then, since he's one of your best players? Anyway, sorry to digress. Just something that I noticed. And Tank, yeah, I guess the book on Tank is that he's a good rusher, but he literally can't do anything else. And if you're in a pinch and you want to run the ball, and that's all you want to do, like Tank Bigsby actually seems like a solid option. Like you probably don't want to build like your game plan around just happen to use Tank Bigsby. But this does seem like a perfect storm for him to like look good, where like the Eagles' offensive line is playing well, like the Eagles are up, so they're running the ball. You hand it off to Tank Bigsby and have him do Tank Bigsby things.
Yeah, coming up, not the greatest matchups in the world for Bigsby. They get they're going into the bye now, and then they get the Packers coming out of the bye. So not sure if Bigsby, if Barkley is gonna be right out of the bye or not. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me for the Eagles to be careful with him. He's pretty important for them, but we'll see.
Right.
We've got a couple weeks to let that situation play out. But like if you have room on a team and you're just churning guys, Bigsby is for sure a solid waiver ad where you could probably get him.
Right.
He will be more under the radar on waivers this week than he should be because of his bye, and also because you get some more, clear and obvious waiver ads. Like you have the Tracy one that I think will overshadow the Bigsby one. So anyway,
yeah, I guess the concern I would have, I'm not sure how much other people will share this, but I would be concerned that because he is so one-dimensional, that unless you're in a kind of clear salt the game away game script, you're the other guys are going to get involved.
Yeah, I would expect Shipley to mix in some, but I think I'll pull up the snaps here. I don't think there were many Shipley opportunities in this game, even after the Barkley injury, though. Yeah, so Shipley just 3 snaps to Bigsby's 12. And this is on rushing plays.
Yeah, I guess so. This is a game where the Eagles are up 21-10 a half.
Yeah, the game was totally in salted away mode. So there's no receiving snaps, or rather,
right?
No,
and like there's no threat of them passing either.
Right.
And in that scenario, you would definitely expect Shipley to get the, actually opposite of what I meant to say, Tank Bigsby to get the work, because it's like you're not even going to threaten the pass. But if there's any like in scenarios or game scripts where you do want to be able to threaten the pass, I do think he gets a lot more involved than this. Like I said, I think this was a perfect storm for Tank Bigsby. I don't think it's like he's the 1A. I mean, he might be like the 1A, but it to me, I would look for this to be pretty tight between him and Shipley, and some chance that Shipley is ahead, at least in snap count, in like a more normal game script.
I think it's pretty unlikely Shipley's ahead. They've been leaning into Bigsby pretty heavily over Shipley lately. I'll pull it up just to validate, but yeah, Bigsby, and then let me look at Shipley's snaps per game. Yeah, Shipley is he's getting backfield snaps, but not many. And they're pretty much, I mean, the rest of his snaps are all coming special teams. He's getting, in the last 3 weeks, he got 3 snaps, 8 snaps, and 8 snaps. And then compared to Bigsby gets 4 and then 16. So, yeah, I mean, the funny thing is they stopped using Bigsby on special teams. When they traded for Bigsby, they were using him on special teams. Then he has the really bad fumble. They stopped using Bigsby on special teams, and Shipley is playing a lot of special teams. So it's interesting. I do think that they probably Bigsby ends up being the 1A, but I also agree with you that Shipley is the favorite to get the passing game stuff. My hope would be that none of this ends up mattering, and by the time they're through the bye, Barkley is healthy, and we don't have to worry about this, because boy, would it feel bad to get buried by Tank Bigsby in this particular run out.
Right. And I mean, just to like in week 7, just so it doesn't get lost. In week 7, before the injury, obviously, Shipley had 8 snaps, Bigsby had 4 offensively. So, like, I guess what I'm saying is I think there's a decent chance. It's not like maybe Shipley isn't the favorite, but it's not out of the question, and certainly that he's the snap leader with a second injury.
Okay, we've got a couple injuries here to go through on running backs that I think open up some interesting opportunities. The next one is Pacheco, who sustains a knee injury. ACL is intact, but I believe they're calling him week to week. And
it's like an MCL sprain.
Yeah,
and, like, it's hard to know if it's like a grade 1 or grade 2. But
yeah,
certainly risk that he misses time.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been particularly great either. And they do, they do have the quick turnaround from the Monday game. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him miss. Right. They play the Bills next week. And the Bills have been a pretty good matchup for running backs. Now, the problem is the running back that would get more of the, traditional running back stuff, less of like the passing game, is Kareem Hunt. And I don't really think it matters how bad the Bills are against the run. Kareem Hunt might be able to get their, death by 1,000 3-yard carries, but I don't think he is the one that is positioned to punish the Bills being weak against big chunk plays. So, and I just don't know if the Chiefs turn enough over to Brashard Smith, even with the injury. I mean, my heart of hearts wants them to, but, and I mean, I don't really know what all you can do. Like, if you're listening to Stat Chasing in week 8, like, you probably already have Brashard Smith on teams where it makes sense to have him, so I don't even know what this segment is for, other than like a little bit of hopium that this is the catalyst that we need for the Brashard Smith breakout. Right. I had to mention it.
Right. I mean, it's kind of crazy where if you look over the last, so since week 6, so 6, 7, 8, they have like similar snap counts. And I know you're getting the garbage time rush attempts for Brashard Smith in this. He's actually had more carries in the last 3 weeks. He's had a similar amount of routes. What my brain says is that because it's a short turnaround, they'll go with the trusty vet. That it's like, hey, we just need a game before Pacheco comes back. Kareem Hunt, that like we're gonna work you today. And my heart says, but they really like Brashard Smith. They've been getting him involved more, and he's efficient. And what if what I want to happen is the thing that happens? My brain does say though that they're more likely to just lean on Kareem Hunt, unfortunately.
Or you know what the most likely thing is? They're just going to run through the air with Rashee Rice, because they sure seem to like doing that yesterday. But we'll talk about Rashee Rice a little more at the end of the show.
That guy might be good.
Yeah, he might be. Okay, one last injury to mention that I think is worth monitoring, and then there's a couple more running backs to get through. Quinshon Judkins ends up with an AC joint sprain. I believe they said he's day-to-day, so it's worth watching. I think Dylan Sampson is the one that benefits the most from this, because right. Ford has never really gotten squeezed out by either of these guys. It's really been Sampson as the one that has gotten squeezed out. But Sampson just looks a lot better than Jerome Ford. So I think he benefits the most if Judkins were to miss time.
Right. I really think he misses time though. I'm told like it's like a mild sprain.
Okay.
That AC joints isn't really that important for running backs. Because like they obviously they don't have to put their hand over their head much. So I think there's it's pretty likely that Judkins is playing.
Okay. Well, that's a good note there. Okay. The last two notes on running back that I had, I believe it was 4 weeks ago now that you declared Chase Brown dead on the air. We had
Yeah, yeah,
it was a
yeah.
whole thing. But is he back to life now?
So it doesn't feel good to say that. And then Chase Brown has probably his best month. I think when I said that was with the what's his name, Jason Brownlee or Browning,
Yeah, Jake
quarterback.
Browning. Yeah,
Jake Browning, and the offense was just like totally abysmal, non-functional, and in that environment, he was dead. I think with Joe Flacco and the receiving that they have, the offense probably goes a lot closer to league average. Again, price you paid, 2-3 turn, and you're splitting a lot of work with P Ryan. Like you're not getting out of here with like a positive Chase Brown advance rate. It's going to be less than 16% for sure. But it's a lot better than it was, where you have like a close to league average offense. You do get some explosive plays from Chase Brown. All of a sudden, you have some touchdown equity back. Although, do they still? He was losing. Didn't you say he was losing goal line work?
Not just losing, it's lost, buddy. It's over. Like when they're in the green zone, it's Samaje Perine time to shine. Like when they're on the goal line, Perine is the one that's in there. And so, to defend your initial Chase Brown is dead take, I mean, yeah, you get Joe Flacco in there and he makes the offense look a lot better, but Samaje Perine is the best back in this backfield. Unfortunately, like I like Chase Brown. He's really fun. But he's just not efficient.
Cool.
Yeah, he's cool. He's very cool. I'd love to hang out with Chase Brown, But Samaje Perine's more efficient right now. They're giving him the high value touches. So you're getting like low value touch Chase Brown on the diet Bengals. And that's just not I think this is like an awesome sell high spot on Chase Brown. My other concern would be we've seen this before out of Joe Flacco. We saw it when he was with the Browns. We saw it when he was with the Colts. He comes in and he is good for a spurt, but like there's only so much juice left in the Joe Flacco fruit. Like you're not going to get a full season of really good play out of Joe Flacco at this point in his career. And so I'm just wondering, like, are we just waiting for the other shoe to drop for the Bengals where it's like they get this little jump start, these signs of life, but then it starts to go back the other way. And the offense, I mean, prior to Joe Flacco getting traded, he was basically right dead even with Jake Browning as far as, EPA per game. Like they both were bad. It's not like Joe Flacco was lighting the world on fire with the Browns before he gets traded. So my concern is just that we're getting the good part now and the bad part may still be to come.
Right.
And so I think this is a really good time to in home leagues, like there's always the guy who thinks that he's just the smartest guy in the league and he's out there trying to buy all your players low. Like this is the prime time for someone to like still be shopping for Chase Brown, like trying to pick him up, like, oh, maybe they don't think or they don't realize that Chase Brown's good now. Because he hasn't even put up huge fantasy scores yet, but I know better that Chase Brown is actually going to be good again. It's like this is where you offload Chase Brown. If you have a buyer, go ahead and sell him. If you can get 90 cents on the dollar, if you can get 90 cents on the dollar what you paid, obviously that's a smash. But like 90 cents on the dollar of the current value of Chase Brown, I'm probably happy to do it, unless I'm just so thin at running back that I like need the warm body. But for me, he's more of like warm body at running back that I'm happy to play. Like, for example, if you have a Scadaboo team where Scadaboo is one of your starters, prior to the terrible injury that he suffered. And now Chase Brown would be your next man up. And then after that, it's all guys worse than Chase Brown. Then yeah, don't trade Chase Brown away unless you're getting a running back or something. But it seems like a sell window to me for Chase Brown. I think the sentiment, like the market sentiment on him, is probably higher than it should be currently.
Right. Makes sense for sure.
Final running back note. This one's important. I'm a little conflicted on this one. Woody Marks posts a decent stat line. He's definitely better than Nick Chubb, but that's like, the bar is low there. That's like, I can't even come up with an analogy that's appropriate for what being better than Nick Chubb is like. But Woody Marks looks like he's probably the fantasy back you'd prefer to have in the backfield. And the stat line, just if you're only looking at the box score, you're like, oh yeah, 4 for 50 receiving, like gets me, I think he's like 17 fantasy points or something, like looks solid. I regret to inform you it's not the case. Again, I watched this entire Texans 49ers game. So he has 4 receptions. Of the 4 receptions, if you remove his long reception, what do you think his net yardage was for the 3 receptions that were not his long?
I think it's like -3 or something. Didn't you tell me?
-1. -1.
Okay.
So he has 3 receptions for no yards. They're all, tackles for loss or like at the line of scrimmage, basically. And then his only play that generates the majority of his yardage for the day is just a totally broken play. There's not a defender within a single, not a defender within 10 yards of him when he gets the dump off from Stroud. And he just runs straight. And I got to hand it to him. He covered a lot of ground quickly in space. But like, if you look at the running backs on this chart right here, like I'm starting at the top and I'm trying to find a running back who wouldn't have gained 50 yards on that play. Yeah, no. All of them here gained 50 yards because like you and I probably gained 20, like that's how far away. Like there weren't signs of intelligent life anywhere near Woody Marks on that play. So like credit to him for actually getting the yards that were there. But like, that was not a let's credit 50 yards to Woody Marks kind of play. That was like a right place, right time. Dare Ogunbowale gets the 50 yards if he happens to be on the field for that one. So I think the pro Woody Marks thing is he's the running back you'd prefer to have in the Texans backfield. The negative for Woody Marks is there's like 38 other running backs you prefer to have over him. So it's not great, but I guess he's, I just didn't want the box score to lie to anybody. But yeah, that's
right. I hear what you're saying. Where I remember we did the same thing with the Gus Bus run. Like I don't think it was it last year or the year before, where he had an incredible game, but like he literally got the ball with nobody inside of him, and it's a good correction to make. So I think he's on the right side of a 1A 1B split.
Yeah, for sure.
If you look at his next gen stats, he does have positive. Now, only 22 yards over expected on 57 attempts. So he's that's probably better classified as he's right at expectation for his rush yard. So with a bad O line, that's probably pretty solid. I think he's probably like a fine NFL player. We came into the year with the expectation that he was a really bad prospect. A lot of his prospect profile stuff, college stats, production was bad. He seems like a kind of like just a replacement level player, which that's still like we've made a lot of money on replacement level players that you get for half nothing, and you get some numbers out of them.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to frame it. He's the perfect kind of player to be really cost sensitive on. So like for best ball next year, you're going to get a shakeup in the Texans backfield. There's not going to be Nick Chubb anymore. Joe Mixon's probably gone, right. If he's not retired by the end of this year. And so the Texans are going to do something at running back. What I would say is if it's anything of
He's getting Michael Carter. That's what you're saying.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, he's like the definition of a churn back, where it's like this guy is going to be crowned the de facto, the incumbent, and he might steam up. If he doesn't steam up, what you're saying of like, hey, we made a lot of money on replacement level players. If he's a super late pick because they draft some other loser, like he could totally retain a job as a replacement level player and be a great value. But if he steams up to like 7th, 8th round because it's like, oh, well, Woody Marks, he's going to be the 1A there, and he's a pass catcher, like high value touch guy, that's like a screaming fade for me, where I won't touch a player like that with a 10-foot pole, because it's so, there's no talent moat, like
No,
it might be a player you've literally never heard of before, like undrafted free agent comes in and takes the job, or like veteran that they sign in week 4 of the regular season comes in and takes, like it could be all kinds of disgusting. That displaces.
I mean, they love the guy.
They do. They really like him. So he's got that going.
And that's what's going to get people in love with him. It's like, I saw there was a video of D'Amico Ryan was like, that's your running back right there. That's your starting running back in like week 5. I can see like that kind of stuff giving him like a price, and also people note what they traded up to get him, but does seem like a replacement level running back at this point, which is good, but like you said, no talent mode.
The tune can just change on those guys on a dime, right? Where the coaching staff loves him and he's their guy, until you literally find anyone that's just one iota better than replacement level, and then it's curtains for that guy, and all the volume that you thought was going to him is now out the window. And it actually turns out that Dare Gunbowale is the guy they prefer in long down and distance, because after a full year with Woody Marks, they realize they really just prefer Dare. Dare makes them feel more comfortable in pass protection. And then you're sitting there with 7th round Woody Marks wondering what you've done with your life. I kind of hope that he stays cheap, though.
I just want to be clear on what we're saying. We're saying that in 2026, there's a chance that a player like Dare just takes his job, and that's why you should not pay an 8th-round pick for him in 2026.
Yeah, in 2025, he is probably like, you're totally fine. Oh no, I don't have any running backs. I need to fill in someone as a starter this week. Like, you're very happy to plug in Woody Marks as a starting running back. He's not your first choice, but he's definitely better than like crawling waivers for nobodies. But like he's an awesome dynasty sell right now. Like, if you happen to have Woody Marks in dynasty, this is like the Pico top on Woody Marks. Right. Maybe you could, if you're greedy, you hold him into the off season to like try and write out the news cycle for when it's Woody Marks RB1 season. The Texans make it through the NFL draft. They didn't draft anybody, and everyone's like, oh my God, it's Woody Marks to the moon. Like, then that's the Pico top. But he's a sell candidate for me in dynasty, but someone where you're not upset if you have to start him in fantasy right now.
Right.
Prefer him to Chubb.
Right. And so there he is.
Here's our guy,
Woody King.
That's our running back.
And so we move on to tight ends.
Oh, I mean, don't even bother.
Oh, you had another note. Sorry.
No, I didn't. I was going to say, don't even bother going back to the running back chart. But Jerry McNichols looks kind of sick. Jerry McNichols is at least good at football.
He's a fun pass catcher.
Yeah. Okay.
So your first note was Tucker Kraft, where he's just so efficient.
Dude, Tucker Kraft just like breaks all the look at the Tucker Kraft ADOT. It's 4.4. Targets per route run are good. It's not like it's lower than Harold Fannin. It's lower than Trey McBride, obviously. It's a solid targets per route run. But it's a low ADOT guy. It's like, I don't give a shit about low ADOT. I'm just going to run for 1,000,000 yards after the catch. He's really, early in his career, he got a lot of the like, oh, he's like Kittle Jr. comp. And I was not about that. But he does he doesn't do the downfield stuff that Kittle can do, which is why I take such umbrage with that comparison. But man, after the catch, Tucker Kraft can George Kittle with the best of him. Like he looked pretty awesome.
He's a yak machine.
He really is.
He had like in his monster week 8 game, he had 8 targets, 20 air yards, so 200. And I'm pretty sure all of those air yards came on like a single target. Right?
I think it was. There was just one target that was a little, it was like an intermediate pass, and everything else is just like these little dump offs. And
it's like 15 of it came from one target, and then like 5 of it was the other 7.
I remember last year, like talking with, I think it was Pat, or I can't remember if it was Pat or if it was just in the rankings crew, but it's like, dude, Tucker Kraft is like the most primo regression candidate of all time. You're telling me this guy who like has no air yards just gets here from like guys falling down around him. He's just racking up all this yak. Like it's such an easy regression spot. Like there's no way this guy stays this efficient. And he's just one of the, Gretsch all the time talks about like the whole point of this game is that you're actually trying to find the outliers. So like just looking at like, oh, well, this guy's going to regress. So like you can't just beat the game doing that, being like, oh, well, this guy is a major outlier, so that's not going to work.
It's like the Mahomes thing where it's like, if you take his touchdown percentage down to average, his yards per attempt down to average, this guy is really average.
The author of that infamous Mahomes Reddit post, that guy was laughing straight to the bank over the last 2 years. But I hope he cashed in all the clout that he got for the last 2 years of the Mahomes down fantasy production, because this year Mahomes is going scorched. Yeah.
But it's like the way Tucker Kraft wins is like he's a yak god. So he's going to continue being a yak god. That's the point. And obviously this was a monster game for him. Like definitely big spike week. He's going to have down games too. But monster game.
Yeah, I'm making a mental note. I'm filing it away that whenever you're trying to like project these players going forward for a season, efficiency is really hard to project. For the most efficient guys, you just never like, it seems so wrong. You're like, yeah, Devon Chan will have 5 yards a carry or 5.5 yards a carry. It's totally fine. Trust me. Really? That's a pretty big number. But for some of those players, you just have to be like, yeah, that's how they do it. Like, that this is the profile, it's going to be an outlier, and just get used to it. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Tucker Kraft is going in that mental model for me where it's like, yeah, this guy's just an outlier. So when you are projecting him going forward and you're like, there's no way this is right. This seems so crazy given the underlying metrics. Just like, remember that it's actually okay, because he's one of those guys where it's like, yeah, the efficiency is just weird for him. He's just crazy efficient. That's what he does. So yeah, Tucker Kraft, monster game. Definitely helped me come correct on him. The other guy that I think fantasy gamers need to come correct on, Harold Fannin. The breakout is here. I don't know if you know this, Drico. Do you know which pass catcher on the Browns currently leads them in receiving yards?
It's probably Harold Fannin, comfortably.
It's Harold Fannin. So I'm pretty sure Harold Fannin is the odds-on favorite to lead the Browns in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns by the end of the season. Like, I don't think it's particularly close for anybody else. Like, he is definitely the dude going forward. The Njoku trade rumors, they cooled down for a little bit, but I saw some stuff. I think it was just yesterday that there may still be interest to move him at the deadline. And I do think it makes sense for the Browns. Like, you need to build going forward, and having Njoku, I mean, unless you're going to extend him, like, doesn't really do anything for you. So it would not shock me at all. I know it's gotten a little quieter lately, but it wouldn't shock me to see Njoku moved. And if that happens, it's like Harold Fannin, all you can eat buffet. Not even really that Njoku is so much direct competition for him. But just that I think they would force him to
He would just consolidate it.
Yeah, he would have to do a little bit more. Like this, percent of team dropbacks is just going to go up for him a little bit there.
So he was at 74% in week 8, and that's with Njoku. So Njoku was down to 58%. So Harold Fannin, he led the tight ends in routes last week. And interestingly enough, Harold Fannin was also ahead in snaps taken from inline tight ends. So at least in week 8, it was like Harold Fannin 1A and Njoku 1B. I feel a little bit of caution as to, hey, was that because of the Njoku injury? And they're just like kind of testing the waters a bit. But certainly watching out if that continues next week. With anticipation. Hopefully that continues. And Fannin is well on his way to a takeover. If that is what happens, like they almost certainly have to trade him at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't think the Njoku snaps were because of injury, because they still had him in the game very late. In fact, he catches the garbage time touchdown for the Browns at the end. So if this was a situation where, this is a player that we really are just trying to work in, we don't want to get a ton of snaps for him, we're just easing him back as part of the return to play, you don't have him in at the end of the game when you're down, whatever it was.
How do you not trade Njoku if he's your tight end too?
I mean, the other thing is like, you put the guy in and you force a touchdown to him in garbage time to show that he's right. Like, hey, look, he's fine, he's healthy, don't worry about it. Like, to me, I'm getting and just all the breadcrumbs from way back in August to now. There's been enough smoke. There's definitely some fire there. That I think Njoku. I'm struggling to say it's more likely than not that he gets moved, just because nothing ever happens. You can take nothing ever happens to the bank so often. But I mean, like, if you put yourself in the Browns' shoes, moving Njoku is so. I mean, dude, for anything, moving Njoku for a 5th is a huge win for you, right? Like, that's going to turn. What's going to happen this season is like nothing of consequence by keeping David Njoku. Like, he doesn't help you win or lose any additional games. When David Njoku is out, the line doesn't move. The Browns' win probability doesn't change in the game. So like that doesn't do anything, right?
And I don't even know if the pick they get from like the compensatory pick, like that, you only get those picks if your free agents sign decent contracts. Like, I don't even know what the market value for Njoku is in terms of like what contract does somebody sign Njoku to in 2026
Yeah, let's see. So it's based on their new contract average value, the percentage of snaps they play with their new team. Yeah. I mean, if I'm the Browns, you just got to.
You're not anticipating a compensatory pick.
No. You want the bird in the hand rather than the. I mean, based on what I'm seeing here, you're looking at like 0.3 birds in the bush. Like you're not guaranteed a comp pick. So they're very incentivized to trade him. Is the thing.
Right.
And they're not.
Man, I feel like we've been talking about this all 8 episodes of 2025. Stop chasing. But when it happens, oh my god.
Yeah, it's almost like we have a bias towards Harold Fannin. Like maybe we drafted a ton of him or something. God, Drico, I just want you to like from being behind the scenes in the rankings chat all summer, like pretend that we lived in a universe where none of us checked Pat on this Fannin stuff. Because early in the season, like April, May, like we're all pouring cold water all over Pat for the Fannin stuff. Like, dude, no, like Harold Fannin is not going to be like, you're way too high on Harold Fannin. He's not going to be a thing. We get it. He's fun. He's cool. But, like, just know, what if we lived in the universe where we just got the unadulterated Pat ranking of Harold Fannin, and we'd all have 100%. Like, we'd have a literal 100% Harold Fannin. It would be so funny.
The only reason I don't have, like, close to 100% is because he started going in, like, the 12th round or something crazy like that late in the year.
We did go crazy
on
FFPC on Harold Fannin.
Yeah.
We had
going into August, I think I had, like, I said 100%. I think I had, like, 50 or 60%.
Yeah, I think we were 60% Harold Fannin in August, and then he started to get away from us. I think we ended up around like 40% or something like that.
Right.
But man, we truly could have It's funny, but like I'm not exaggerating the slightest when I say that if Pat had his way and none of us poured cold water on his Harold Fannin process, we would have 100. If you were a leg up sub, you would have 100% Harold Fannin, because Pat would have had us taking him in like basically like as soon as Dalton Kincaid was off the board, I think it was Harold Fannin time in Pat's mind. And so that's where he would have got him.
And that was correct.
Yeah, yes it was. Dude, I've learned to never doubt Pat's rookie tight end rankings. From the man who brought you undrafted Sam Laporta, I mean, he tried to bring Harold Fannin to the people, and he succeeded, but man, there were trials and tribulations for him along the way. All right, the last tight end note that I had, again, not a ton of change here, although I do realize I need to pull Darren Waller off this chart now as he is on IR. But the Darren Waller is a good segue into another old dusty tight end. But this old dusty tight end still had enough in the tank to put up a pretty big spike week, and that's Travis Kelce. Still sitting there with 20% targets per route run, although I'd expect that to fall in the coming weeks as we get more Rashi. But yeah, Travis Kelce, I put in the notes, the old man still has it, but not really. He's just attached to one of the best offenses in the league. It was not really a Travis Kelce game. In fact, Travis Kelce was like part of the reason the Chiefs got off to such a bad start. He pops up a great passes right on the money. He volleyball sets it to the defender, turns it into an interception early in the game, but doesn't matter. Chiefs still keep him involved, ends up with a touchdown late, a couple big plays. So Kelce's still able to produce like a high-end tight end one for fantasy. I just think it's going to be pretty few and far between and volatile with Rice here. But it's so much just driven by the fact that you're on the Kansas City Chiefs. This team's going to score a bunch, and very much not like Travis Kelce's still got some left in the tank. Like, there's not anything left in the tank, but the fumes are enough to score well for fantasy.
It's kind of wild. So he's still tight end 10 in air yards. Like, and obviously that's like for a tight end of Travis Kelce's ilk and caliber, tight end 10 in air yards is garbage. But just given how washed he is, like that's kind of pretty good. Where is he? He's in terms of targets, he's tight end 7. So like I guess like probably like he's firmly in the mid-tier tight end 1 range. And like you're saying, it's just because he plays with Mahomes, and that's he's probably going to trend towards tight end 12 with all the rushing stuff.
Yep, he'll probably be overdrafted in playoff basketball, and it'll probably kill me. I anticipate having a big fade on Travis Kelce in playoff basketball because the price is so ludicrous. And then it's going to be the Super Bowl. I've got a gang of Chiefs teams. I got them all. I got all the Chiefs. I'm just so woefully underexposed to Travis Kelce, who has a send-off game in the Super Bowl for 3 touchdowns as he and Taylor Swift ride off into the sunset on her private jet with his, final Super Bowl trophy.
The defense balls out, gets the Chiefs to the 2. And they're like, this is the legacy Travis Kelce game. Get him the ball.
Travis Kelce shovel passes, out the ass. So you're just getting all the manufactured bullshit Travis Kelce touchdowns. Yeah, I can see it so clearly in my mind's eye that I
let him do the Travis Kelce just find the soft spot in the zone play.
Oh, I'm already tilting over playoff basketball teams I haven't even drafted yet because I just know that Travis Kelce is going to bury me because there's no shot the market prices him appropriately. He's going to go so overdrafted, but it won't matter at all. All right, I think that's all the tight end notes I have. Let's get to the wide receiver charts.
Sorry. Yeah, we don't need to talk about any of these losers.
Not a ton to change here. Not a lot of big changes in wide receiver. There's only so many times that we can talk about the ambiguity of the Chargers wide receiver room. I think like previous analysis still stands there. JSN, Chase, the Cowboys are still who they are. The ones that I had notes on that were, I think, worth discussing a little bit is Chris Olave, who I believe leads the league in targets right now, gets the quarterback change to Tyler Shuck. So Rattler has been great for him. And I know the perception might not be that it's been great, but it's been pretty darn good, man. I know, relative to how many targets he's been getting, it feels like a lot of meat's left on the bone, or like you wish that there'd been more, but like all things considered, it's been pretty good for Chris Olave.
Yeah, it's been solid.
What do you think about
Tyler Shuck is a disaster. Absolute disaster. So, Spencer Rattler, he had 21 pass attempts, and he played his worst game of the year, and he had 4.3 adjusted yards per attempt. Tyler Shuck, he had 30 pass attempts, and he had 2.8 adjusted yards per attempt. So, like, meaningfully worse than Rattler's worst game of the year. Given how bad we already expected Shuck to be, disaster. The one consolation is I think he's so bad that they can't possibly stick with Shuck for very long. I think it goes back to Rattler pretty soon.
I mean, I can see an outcome where it goes back to Rattler, but I feel like with how few games are left in the season, you probably. I think they got to ride.
You want to give Shuck a leash. That's what you're telling me. Yeah,
you want to ride with it because you need to know, definitively.
I think that know.
You very well could be right. I think that's actually a really good point, that if Shuck's really, really bad, you get back to Rattler. And I think that's actually very good analysis with respect to what it means for Chris Olave, where the floor, it's not actually possible for the floor to be all that low, because if it really is the worst outcome, you get back to Rattler, which has been good. And so, I mean, the way I'm looking at this,
it's heads. Shuck proves me wrong, and he actually does similar to Rattler. Or tails, he's so bad they go back to Rattler.
You get Rattler back, yeah. So this is a keep a close eye on it, and as you come up on trade deadlines in fantasy home leagues, Chris Olave is probably a screaming buy for me. If you get a couple bad Shuck games, that's one where I just want to go ahead and embrace that variance and say, hey, I've got my third eye open on this one. Either Shuck gets better and Olave gets better, or they got to go back to Rattler and it gets better for Olave. So I think overall, your sentiment then has to be net bullish for Olave, because it's either neutral, because you're going to get back to Rattler eventually, and sure, you're going to miss a couple games of production potentially in that journey. But by the time you get to the money weeks in, you're back to what you had. And then there is the upside where you end up with Shuck being good or at the very least, like Shuck could even be bad and be good for Olave, right? He could be he's a little Jameis-y in that like he doesn't have anywhere near the arm talent as Jameis Winston. He's not as good as him. But he's willing to huck it downfield, and just do stuff that seems bad, but could be fun for fantasy. So I think it's net bullish for Olave, even though I think we both agree that Shuck's very likely bad, but that's the most likely outcome.
Yeah, we have this agreement that he does have draft cap. It's round 2 capital, so I don't think that's like particularly strong. They want to see what they have, but I'm honestly, he was so bad. Like who was the guy that the Ravens started a couple of weeks ago?
Oh, Cooper Rush. Yeah.
Cooper Rush. He was as bad as Cooper Rush.
Well, I look forward to Tyler Shuck breaking my chart next week. Okay, the other receiver I had a note on, also with a quarterback change, so that's the theme for this chart here. Tetairoa McMillan, we get him with Andy Dalton. He posts a good stat line. I believe finishes with like 7 for 99 yards or something in that neck of the woods.
I know he finished at 99 yards. People were very disappointed.
People were tilting he didn't get the 100-yard bonus. Yeah, he looked good to me. There were a couple plays where Andy Dalton looked pretty bad, so that was, you're hopeful because Bryce Young had been so bad that like, well, Andy Dalton certainly can't be worse, and he doesn't look worse. He just looks like a different kind of bad than Bryce Young is bad. It's just like,
yeah. The thing I've heard, and it seems true to me, that with these veteran quarterbacks, they know what side their bread is buttered on. They know, like, hey, if I want to play more, I got to throw to the good guys. Forget about my progression, my reads. My read is I throw to the good player. And I think he did that. Like, this was, in terms of targets per out run for T-Mac, so he was 29% targets per out run. He had a 36% game, but he was mostly around he was like in week 7, he was 15%. Week 6, 19%. He had a 24% in week 5, 19%. Week 2, he was 19%. Week 1, he was 23%. So I do think you get that element where Andy Dalton understands the assignment, get the ball to T-Mac in a way that I don't think Bryce Young is as on board with.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Watching Dalton play though was just a bit of a letdown because you're just optimistic that you're picking jelly beans out of a Birdie Bots every flavored bean box, and you just finished. You've been eating the Bryce Young flavored jelly bean for weeks, and then you grab the Andy Dalton one, and it looks like it could be butterscotch, but it's actually vomit, and you're just really disappointed. That's kind of how I felt about this one. So I don't think that it's like a huge boost to Tet. Like I thought that was in the range where it's just a massive boost for him because it's competent quarterback play. But I don't think you get competent quarterback play. I just think you get slightly different bad quarterback play. But that's probably
you get more volume, but
a little. Yeah, it's a little better for Tet, right? Maybe not necessarily better for the team, but certainly better for Tet.
In the main event that I have with Daniel and Kyle, we were starting the Buffalo defense last week, and obviously we had a good day.
Yes.
But the one play I remember is, they're in field goal range, and I'm worried that the Panthers will get the field goal, but before the half, so that obviously the points against decreases your defense's points. But they get the sack on Andy Dalton, and they're not able to get the field goal.
That was such a brutal play. That was a terrible, terrible sack. Yeah,
I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Did you see? So that was one of the worst ones. That was like, as far as Andy Dalton plays, where I'm like, oh yeah, never mind. This is really bad. That was one of the worst. Did you see the play where Tet has all the space in the world to the sideline. Like, he is wide ass open. You just need to put the ball anywhere inbounds between Tet and the sideline, and it's a catch, right? And instead, so he's breaking out. And instead, Andy Dalton puts it behind him, which is right to the defender. And it, like, by the grace of God, ends up not being an interception. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, miss anywhere else. Miss anywhere but the way that you missed. And yeah, so those two plays stuck out to me as like, oh man, okay. So I don't think the Bryce Young soft benching lasts all that long.
Right. What did we say last week? 2 Andy Daltons away.
You were so prescient on that. Like, I thought we could get a lot more Andy Dalton, but there are sometimes your Gadsden call, you're 2 Andy Daltons away. Sometimes you are just absolutely dialed in. So I got to give you your flowers.
I appreciate that. I got to make up for it when with my garbage sakes. So I appreciate it.
Oh man. Okay, I think that's all the receivers I want to talk about on this chart. There's actually a couple guys on the 70 to 85% route run chart.
Every chart being broken is so funny to me.
Yeah, Puka should be back this next week. Hopefully we get him to graduate to the full-timers chart so he can stop breaking this chart. But yeah, Puka totally skewing this chart, but a guy that I think had a really, really strong first game back and could have some room to the upside just based on
he's going to be on this chart for a while. He's only on 81% ride share.
No. Well, another guy who's going to be on this chart for a while is Terry McLaurin, because he just hasn't played very many games, and he's down here at lower than 80% routes, so he's got a little ways to go. But Terry McLaurin looked great in his first game back. Has 2 spectacular, like 2 catches that both were good enough to be like, wow, catch of the week level catches, just acrobatic, like sideline, incredible concentration. Looked really, really good. Right, kind of at the time where we're getting Deebo starting to wane a little bit. You had the really strong start to the season for Deebo, and now that's sort of fading back. He just, he couldn't keep that going for all that long. I think that if you get Jayden Daniels back and Terry McLaurin healthy, we might have some of those like classic Terry McLaurin spike weeks in store that we saw from last season. And the Commanders need it, man. The Commanders really need it, like badly. I mean, they need some stuff to help the run game out a lot, because it's looked pretty bad these last couple of weeks without Daniels. So that deep threat to like take the top off the defense and open up space underneath, because the horizontal raid is just not working very much right now. Like when teams aren't scared, the horizontal raid is nice because it spreads teams out and creates a lot of space, right? But if they don't have to worry about the deep pass, then they're really not all that spread out. They're just spread out horizontally.
Right. Everybody just shades down.
The horizontal raid works because, in general, teams really care about not giving up the explosive play now in the NFL, and they'll keep 2 safeties deep just by like that is the default, And so when those safeties aren't threatened, then the horizontal raid really starts to look a lot worse. So just like we talked about kind of a different phenomenon, but similar in that, this team really needs this player or this type of, help. We talked about the Patriots really need pass catcher help. And so that was the thesis for maybe Kyle Williams could get some work. That didn't work out. The Patriots resolved that issue by Drake May just being the literal best quarterback in the league. So it doesn't matter. He's just like, nope, don't really need any wide receiver help. Actually, I'm fine on my own. You just, whoever's out there, it'll work. So we're at a similar fork in the road for the Commanders, where it's like they really need vertical help. And God, Terry McLaurin is like the only guy. He's the only man for the job. So by necessity, It kind of seems like a good spot for him. So he's one I wanted to kind of call out going forward.
No, that's a good shout. I appreciate that shout. That is a good and he's been playing well. Obviously, he had to leave the other game with the injury, and they were easing him back in last night. But he's playing really well.
Okay, Drico, I'm actually conflicted on this second note that I have in our show notes, because we did talk about this being a spot to attack last week, but then
Right.
there's the bye week, and so kind of goes under the radar. I still want to jam the hell out of this spot this week, and I'm almost like, nah, if you care, you listened last week. You already know. Do I just say nothing? Do I just let this guy go under the radar?
I don't think that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think that's bad podcasting. So Travis Hunter, just a friendly reminder to the loyal listeners out there. This is like the input volatility spot of all.
If you make it to minute 90 of stat chasing, you deserve a little nugget.
Yeah, well,
nugget.
You can have a little Travis Hunter alpha as a treat.
Minute 90 in week 8, you can. All 8 of you can get that.
Yeah, for all 8 of you that are actually listening at minute 90, week 8 of stat chasing, go ahead and throw something in the comments and thank us for this juicy Travis Hunter alpha. But listen, this is the input volatility spot because you have number one, like the routes it's very likely going to be his season high in route rate again because it's been trending up. They're coming out of the bye. You absolutely cannot have had the entire bye to self-scout and watch what you are doing with Parker Washington and be like, no problems here. Business as usual, folks. Like, that's not a thing.
You self-scout. You see all of the Parker Washington looks and you're like, we need to do this more.
And Liam Cohen, listen, Liam Cohen's a good coach. Like I have all the faith in the world that there is no shot that they're looking at all the Parker Washington opportunities and thinking like, this is fine. So my thought is Travis Hunter is going to get.
He had 205 air yards in week 7.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And I watched them all, and I was just pulling my hair out. Like, it's not the other. He's fine as a complimentary piece. Like in best ball season, I was like, actually Parker Washington could very much legitimately be a guy on this offense. Like I know De'Ami Brown's the one that people want to click, but Parker Washington could be the guy. And I still believe that, but like as a complimentary piece, not as like the thing that you're building the plane out of. And like, to be fair to them, they can't build the plane out of Brian Thomas because he's injured and just not playing like the rookie Brian Thomas that we saw like that. And I really don't want to shit on Brian Thomas for that. Like, I understand that it's really easy to be like, this guy's getting paid millions of dollars to go out there and make these plays. Like, I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know if you've ever torn a labrum or like had any serious shoulder injury.
About.
Yeah. Like, dude, he might be in pain that none of us have even experienced, like he could be suffering such a severe injury just with the way that he's acting too on it. Like, I don't know, man, it really reads that way to me. So I think this is the Travis Hunter breakout game where you'll probably get projection systems like at least more appropriately accounting for his route share this week. But I think his targets per route run just go through the roof after this. Like, the plane has to be built out of him. Like, you can just, here's a hint. Whatever the Parker Washington projection is from whatever projection system you use, take half of that and just assign it to Travis Hunter instead. And that's how you combat this input volatility. And really, you can probably go more than that, where you dock Parker Washington by half and you give Travis Hunter, 1.5x of whatever you took away from Parker Washington, because you're saying the reason they're getting away from this Parker Washington stuff is because they need Travis Hunter to be more efficient with it. And you just lean into the talent and say that's going to happen. So there's all your Travis Hunter alpha. That's probably like right around what I'm going to do for any of my DFS stuff.
I was listening to you say that, I'm like, this sounds what Psych will actually do.
Yeah. So you said we should share the alpha. So all 8 of you, come join me. Slam Travis Hunter. I'll see you at the top.
Yeah. Then your last note was on this page was about Keenan Allen, who's his route share slid. It was the lowest of this year by far.
Yeah, I think it was down to what, like 41% or something.
It was like 55.
Okay, 55, maybe 41% snap share.
But it was down from like he'd been in like the 70s and 80s, and then so it was 50%. Sorry, 50%.
Okay.
And so who actually did see?
You got a little bit of Trey Harris.
You got a little bit of Trey Harris, but he played in week 7 too.
Yeah, I earlier in the season I was on the Keenan Allen hater train, and I think I've departed from that train. I'm no longer on the Keenan Allen hater train. I think that was incorrect. I just think he's like functional member of the offense number 3. Like him, Vlad McConkey, QJ. Now you have Gadsden in the mix. He's just like functional member of the offense. I think as the season progresses, it is starting to trend in the general direction of the talent that we had evaluated for the players, or, hey, it actually turns out that Ladd is the best receiver on the team. And, maybe, QJ shouldn't be going thermonuclear every week. And so I think you're going to get this hierarchy where Ladd is not, the way the team shakes out, I don't think it's ever going to be like a clear 1, 2, 3, but more along the lines of like 1A through 1D, But I think those differences between 1A, like a couple weeks ago, I was just like, the Chargers receivers are all the same, and you don't really care to sort out the difference. Just like know they all could get there. But I think it's going to get a little bit more clear where it's like Ladd's the clear favorite, and then Keenan is probably number 2 in the pecking order, and then you have like Gadsden and QJ. But it wouldn't surprise me if Gadsden hops Keenan here. But do you think this is signal for like, is this a trend where Keenan's going to get lower opportunity going forward? Or is this just a, hey, the Chargers are beating the brakes off him. They don't need Keenan Allen out there running meaningless routes.
Yeah. I mean, he's still got it. I think he got like 4 or 5 targets. So he's still involved. When they need an easy button first down, like, Keenan Allen is still so good at that. Like I know McConkey is fantastic too, and he's a much more dynamic player. But I think that Keenan Allen's his ability to just get open and make an easy target for a first down is going to give him a moat in the offense. I'm looking here who did get routes. So Tucker Fisk got 7 routes, and Scott Matlock.
So it's all they're running all the heavy personnel stuff and the 2 tight end stuff, just playing from the lead because Matlock's their fullback, and most of his routes are just like not
right. So he got 2 routes, so I don't want to overstate that.
Okay, but yeah, Fisk is another tight end, and he's out there for blocking stuff. So they're just playing out of the heavy personnel, and that explains it because they had such a big lead. So don't think it's signal for Keenan Allen.
Right. He's at so 17 is 50%. You add on 6, he's probably his normal rate, and that probably did go to Fisk instead.
Okay, well, I'm glad we parsed that one out there. Those were all the notes I had on this chart. Let's take it to the final one.
Another broken chart.
Rashi only needs like one more game, I think, to get off this godforsaken chart. Then maybe he and Puka can break the next chart together.
Right. We can get our tertiary receiver chart back.
Yeah, I didn't have notes on these guys, but I just want to briefly mention them because there was some stuff that so Steph Diggs dealing with the chest injury, doesn't play as many routes or doesn't play as many snaps, doesn't get as many routes as he had been getting in the previous weeks. He catches the ball like at the goal line, and then it was very like keep Steph Diggs happy coded, where they just like scheme up a play to him on the very next play, and he gets the touchdown, gets in the end zone. But it was like, hey, we know that we can't involve you as much as usual, but like, don't worry, you're still an important part of the team, bud. Just like, it's funny because like it's very transparent that it's like that's a if that's a less diva receiver, like maybe that doesn't happen. But I do think it's like good knowing your personnel to be like, all right, like we can't actually play this guy as much as like we would like to if he was fully healthy, but we do want him to like be happy and stay invested in the team. So let's go ahead and force a touchdown to him. So the Steph Diggs, I'm not super concerned about the lack of production this week. I think it was more just injury related. The other one, Marvin Mims, I mean, like he's like he legitimately belongs on this chart. He will not be graduating, but he does leave with a concussion. And but even prior to that, like Troy Franklin was taking his lunch. It has been taking his lunch. The Marvin Mims thesis that we talked about all offseason of, hey, like this guy was basically just taking the pass catching snaps out of the backfield because they were so sick of, their running backs not being able to do anything productive with it. And Marvin Mims was basically the de facto pass catcher running back. Yeah, Marvin Mims' lunch has now been eaten by Tyler Bidet, and so that's basically why you're not seeing any progression in the Marvin Mims opportunity. Like that's what's going on there. Neither of those terribly important, just things that I had noted. The one that I actually do think is worth talking about is Christian Watson, who is back from his very late in the 2024 season, pretty bad ACL injury, and immediately involved. They target him on the first play of the game, like very much intending to get him involved.
Yeah, that was fun that they got him involved so early.
Yeah, he catches a deep pass. Kind of hilarious that Christian Watson, who I think tore his ACL like a full 2 months after Brandon Ayuk, is back on the field and like not just being like very slowly worked in. Like they used him this game,
Right. So he opened with a 65% route share, which off an ACL is very bullish.
Yeah.
He had 72 air yards on 4 targets. And what this strikes me as is like if you had Golden and this year you're like, uh-oh, I'm in danger.
Yeah. I've got a tip. This is going to actually help. That you might not believe that there's anything you can do to help your golden teams, but I promise this will help. If you go and you find all your golden teams in the Underdog app and you go into the function where you can rename your team, you just put a little skull emoji on the golden teams. That way to never look at them again. And then mentally, you just never have to feel the sadness of seeing the fact that you drafted Matthew Golden again. That's probably the best thing you can do for Matthew Golden teams. In all seriousness, I do think Christian Watson
3.9 air yards. Matthew Golden on in week 8. 3.9.
Good stuff. Those are Tucker Kraft numbers.
He did have 103% receiver air yard conversion ratio.
Wow.
He converted those 3.9 into 4 yards.
Hot dog. Good for him. It's Tucker Kraft numbers. Unfortunately, Tucker Kraft has like a 17,000% air yard conversion ratio.
Right.
The way that I do think this Christian Watson information is relevant is it's pretty bad for other Packers receivers going forward because the pie was already so split up that none of the guys are really all that useful anyway. I mean, for me, because I'm not playing Christian Watson in any format yet. Like I need to see him being more consistently involved. I don't know that that's going to be something you can rely on. So really, you're just left with Romeo Doubs as the only wide receiver that's actually usable on the Packers. And even he's not someone you're excited to start. He's just like a guy you're really happy to have on best ball teams because he's way underpriced. But like in a managed league, you're not like starting Romeo Doubs because you're happy to do so. You're doing it out of desperation. I think the thing that's most interesting to me, but it's probably just because I'm sick and have been doing playoff best ball work recently. I'm very interested in the Packers for playoff best ball because all these receivers should be free. Like basically the way that you could play Packers is I need Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs. And then, like, I could take Tucker Kraft, but, like, I don't need to. And then I just take whatever Packers wide receivers are there in the very last round. Like, I take Christian Watson, I take Matthew Golden, I take Romeo Doubs, I take Jayden Reed if he's back. Like, I take Malik Heath, you know? Like, I think if you're, man, Packers to the Super Bowl just sets up some really fun stuff that you can do in playoff basketball just with how they split up their targets and the fantasy points, the pass catchers, where basically you can use those guys as the pieces for later in the tournament. And they all go so cheap that you're never really sacrificing much in the way of like early round advance rate probability to get them. And so like you can do something where you've got 4 Packers on your team and you took Jacobs and Love early, and then the last 2 were your last 2 picks. And then you've got 6 picks that are, you know, monster producers to help you advance. I'm pretty interested in the Packers in that regard, but that's probably more playoff basketball talk than anyone other than myself cares about.
No, I find that interesting. I suspect that many will not remember that by the time they draft their first playoff team draft. But I think that's super interesting.
That's okay.
The one guy I wanted to note here, who had a little bit of a mini breakout with Nico Collins out, was Jayden Higgins. He only got 34 yards. I think he got a touchdown as well. But he was up to an 81% route share, 21% target spread run. He played pretty well. I guess I have some small hope that they continue to use him more.
I actually thought from watching the game, I thought Noel looked better. There's a play.
They didn't play Noel much. He only got like a 40.
No, nope, they don't. That's their thing. They don't play Noel much. But when he does get on the field, he does look good. Like he's making difficult catches. He's catching downfield passes. He's catching stuff short. The thing that bugged me about Higgins was there was a pass where it was like the thing that you would think that a Jayden Higgins is for, like that kind of pass, or it was like a little high, like outside the frame, but you're like, that's what this guy's, that's literally why we draft this guy. Like, go up and get that. And he just like, it was just really underwhelming to me to like, it looked like he just didn't have a chance in hell at it. It's like, oh man, really? Like that's what you got for me on that? Like, that's kind of like what I thought, you know, part of your appeal would be. And I mean, I don't think it's fair to judge a player on one rep like that and be like, oh, Jayden Higgins can't go up and get the hard to catch ones, right? But it was pretty vivid to me as like, I don't know why I watched every snap of that stupid Texans 49ers game, but I was really, really hoping for a nice Jalen Noel breakout. And Higgins, of course. I drafted a bunch of him too, but I have a huge, huge bag of Noel. And I just was feeling a little underwhelmed with Higgins. I mean, he does get in the end zone, and the positive for him is that the team is more willing to play him. Right. You do need to see the field to score points. So I don't know. I think you really you need the team to just stop being so obsessed with these total losers and start using the guys they spent high draft capital on, man. Like I can't even remember. I need to pull.
What's cool for Noel is he has 77 yards, 63 yards in the last 2 games. Like even on the 48 and 45% route share, he's still getting 7 and 6 targets. So he's getting heavily targeted.
He's the target leader in this last game.
Maybe what the story you tell yourself is that Hutchinson is not vulnerable to Jayden. You don't even need to shit on Jayden Higgins. You tell yourself that Christian Kirk is extremely vulnerable to Jalen Noel right now. And that the same way we've been rooting for a flippening between Njoku and Fannin, we should be rooting for that same flippening between Kirk and Jalen Noel.
Yeah, the big problem for Jalen Noel is I think he's basically exclusively slot. Let me pull up where he lined up this last week. Yeah, it's all slot, man. Last 2 weeks, 26 slot snaps, 7 out wide, 25 slot snaps, 6 out wide. He's getting return work too. He's getting kick returns and punt returns. So what you really need for Jalen Noel to like have a meaningful.
Christian Kirk is missing time, isn't he? So you've already got Christian Kirk out,
right?
And so that's why you're getting the 45% route share, but no more.
Because listen, Drico, one thing that you might not understand, simpletons like us don't understand that you've got to get Jared Wayne his snaps. If you're not getting Jared Wayne his snaps, I mean, are you even trying to win? You have to get Braxton Berrios his targets. If Braxton Berrios doesn't get his targets, what's it all for?
Yeah, I never even heard of Jared Wayne until you.
Me neither until literally I'm watching the game and I see this guy go in motion and I'm like, who is this tight end? He's not a tight end. He's just a big ass slow wide receiver that they decided that they needed to play. So yeah.
And I guess Braxton Berrios is the slot receiver that he needs to beat out, and Christian Kirk. That is kind of wild.
I do think Berrios.
Think that they don't go and say, "Oh yeah, shit, Christian Kirk is back. Jalen Noel, we can't play you anymore."
I mean, that's the odds-on favorite for outcomes. Like that's what's going to happen. Frustratingly, but doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make any sense. You spend a bunch of draft capital on this guy. He's good. He looks good every time that he's out there on the field, and you're just refusing to play him. Berrios did leave with a chest injury late, so maybe that's what we need for the Noel breakout. I mean, it's frustrating because it's like how I know the genie, he hasn't had like a true genie out of the bottle game, but like he leads you in receptions last week, and then I want to say in the previous week he was up there as well. Like, it's just, what does this guy have to do for you to decide to give him more opportunity? Like, do we really need like some monster 150-yard game with a touchdown for them to realize that this guy is very, like, I'm not saying he's better than Nico Collins, but he definitely deserves to, at the very least, share slot snaps with Christian Kirk. Like, come on. Anyway, I foresee us being frustrated with the Jalen Noel usage going forward. I mean, there's a sliver of hope with the Berrios injury, and maybe Kirk's out another week, but like, I think we're just most likely to be frustrated. But the talent is there. The thesis was correct. This guy's good.
Right. And I think that covers all our notes, unless you have anything else.
No, I mean, I was thinking of ranting about Jalen Noel for like another 25, 35 minutes, but I do think it's probably best if we just sign off.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us for another week. We'll see you next week.